Ah, the holidays. Always a special time of year, and especially when Christmas comes around, it's a great time to spend time with the ones you love and spread joy and cheer everywhere. Have a cup of hot chocolate, have some candy canes, decorate some trees, curl up with the ones you love, throw a Yule log on the fire, and then, of course, you can curl up with a nice, great movie. And of course, of all the classics that you can watch on Christmas, the one that I chose to watch was The Shining. And no, I don't think this is a Christmas movie. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode on my channel. As always, I'm Jay, and guys, you've read the title right. This is my first time watching a review of The Shining, and guys, it took me a very long time to watch this film, and again, admittedly, as a cinephile and a movie fan, I've seen a lot of movies, but there are so many more that I haven't seen for greats and classics and infamous movies like this one. And the thing of it is that I'm somewhat familiar with Stanley Kubrick's work because I've seen a couple of his films, A Clockwork Orange and 2001: A Space Odyssey. So that being said, I was kind of excited for this, especially since you had Jack Nicholson and the cast inside of this, but also since it's a Stephen King adaptation. And yeah, I mean, a lot of friends that I know said, "Oh my God, you haven't watched The Shining? What are you doing with your life?" So finally, I was able to watch it. Thing of it is, though, is that I've had this 4K combo pack for a few years now. I actually bought it a while back when it was on sale on a Black Friday at Best Buy one time, and it was on sale for a steal price. So I grabbed it just because I had a really good feeling that I was going to enjoy this film, and lo and behold, I did. So before I get into any specifics, though, I am going to delve into some spoilers, so if for some reason you're like me and haven't seen the film, until now anyway, I highly recommend going to check it out first, then coming back to the video. But if spoilers don't bother you, or if you've already seen the film, let's talk my thoughts on The Shining. So the story of The Shining actually centers on the Torrance family. Jack Torrance, a recovering alcoholic and writer, actually is hired as the caretaker of the infamous Overlook Hotel, in which he actually takes his family there, his son Danny and his wife Wendy. Thing of it is, though, that the Overlook Hotel has had some really messed up things happening, especially since the last caretaker went mad and actually killed his whole family, apparently stacking the bodies in one of the hotel rooms. But while the family is in isolation during the off-season, which is why they need a caretaker for the hotel, essentially there's a lot of strange happenings going on in the hotel, and especially a lot of ghostly encounters between Jack himself and his son, who actually has the ability to shine. Essentially, it's like telepathic powers, as we're divulged into. And this is a detail that I actually never knew about. I never, clued in on. For all the things that I heard about this film, I actually never knew that it was named for this kind of skill or talent that Danny and even Jack has to some degree, because it's passed down generationally, as we find out from Scatman Crothers. And so as these encounters keep going on, Danny and Jack are exposed to really disturbing imagery and encounters and everything like that. And unfortunately, what occurs is Jack actually slowly deteriorates mentally, and he goes crazy, culminating in one night where he just snaps and just goes on a mad rampage with an axe, trying to kill Wendy and Danny. At the end of it, it's really kind of a cat and mouse game, and kind of you're on the edge of your seat as to whether Wendy and Danny are going to survive and what's going to happen, and is Jack going to get them? And oh my God, it's, a lot of craziness going on. I didn't expect, and I wear this thing out a lot whenever I watch older cinematic kind of greats and classics and films for the first time. I'm just so taken aback by how contemporary and modern the stylings and the skills are inside of films like this. And especially since I'm watching this film and I'm like, I'm getting major Unbreakable and Sixth Sense vibes. And the thing of it is like, I'm like, wow, this really had a lot going for it. And it was very groundbreaking in a lot of different respects. Plus, Stanley Kubrick has that Kubrick style where he just draws out the tension and he kind of like lingers on certain imagery and some shots. Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson. Holy crap, this guy is beyond intense. And when I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff, you would have never guessed, because the dude is such a ham when it comes to all that stuff. But you're looking at him and he plays every single shade of Jack Torrance, whether you're talking about the sympathetic everyman, or a dude who's literally an asshole, or a guy who's like on the edge of a breakdown, or a full-blown crazy nutcase with an axe. And this is definitely a role that I would say attributed him getting the Joker role. I mean, there's points in this where he's just doing a full-on Joker laugh and just having a big grin on his face. Shelley Duvall's acting inside of this film was criticized apparently upon first release because of her being very whiny or this or that, but I'm like, dude, this lady is literally having a mental breakdown as the man that she loves is trying to kill her and her son. Meanwhile, her son's also going through some crazy shit too, and she doesn't know what the hell to do. So I wholeheartedly believe her performance in this, but when I'm finding out more about the film, apparently Stanley Kubrick really gave her the business, or the cold shoulder as it were, because he really pushed her as far as to her wit's end. And in some clips, you even see her kind of passing out or being very ill on set. And supposedly this film is credited with her getting a mental breakdown or some type of trauma with it because of how far she was pushed. And just to hear that she was kind of, overlooked or scoffed as far as her performance is really disheartening, because she really did go for it and she did get pushed and really did give a great performance. Danny Lloyd, who played Danny Torrance, it's kind of a hit or miss with child performers. Sometimes they're very good, sometimes they're just annoying. And in this case, I think that they did a great job, and especially Danny did a great job acting for a 5 or 6 year old, as he says in some interviews. And the thing of it is that the crew and the people that have worked with him had to do an even greater job, because they had to make sure he wasn't exposed to the disturbing, violent stuff inside of this film, while also getting reactions and kind of believable, performance out of him, despite him not having all that to work off of to really paint a picture and kind of juxtapose his reactions with the kind of craziness that's he's supposed to be experiencing. So I give major kudos to the cast and crew of this film for sure. Moving from there, I really appreciated Scatman Crothers' performance as the cook of the Overlook Hotel, Dick, and I forget his last name, it's escaping me right now, but dude, growing up, you know me, I'm a G1 Transformer fan, and so Scatman Crothers was jazz in that, and then on top of that, I am an old soul, so I know all about Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy, so this was very, very interesting to see him in a very serious, deep role. And the thing that's crazy is that this character that Scatman Crothers plays is actually someone who shares the same gift as Danny, and of course, as we're kind of alluded, or it's implied, that Jack has, in kind of this little bit of a expository kind of conversation he has with Danny. He explains that the Shining is passed on from generation to generation. Some people know how to handle it, some people don't. And in this case, I think that the Shining is what got Jack insane and what drove him crazy. And for Danny was able to harness the Shining and use it to save himself and his mother by kind of being clairvoyant and seeing all the dangerous signs kind of coming through. And side note, it was funny to see Tony Burton kind of come in here from the Rocky franchise. Rocky is my favorite film, and it's kind of cool to see little actors pop up here and there between different works that you're watching. I didn't realize that this was one of the first films to really use and utilize the Steadicam the way it was. And I mean, this thing had some very striking visuals and a style that was very kind of claustrophobic. They used very, very wide lenses, which kind of created almost like a kind of closed-in feeling, I noticed, especially when you're behind Danny riding his, tricycle or his big wheel or whatever throughout the halls and everything, or even when they're going through the maze, which from the aerial view, the maze actually reminds me of the syncope sign for Christopher Nolan, which I thought was kind of cool. And I don't know if that's a little bit of trivia or if he actually based that off of The Shining and the maze and everything like that. The music helped to add to the tension, and sometimes the absence of music helped to make this kind of discomforted feeling when you get that creepy music with like the image of a bloody pool coming out of the elevator, or like kind of stuff going on when you're seeing like chopped up twin girls or all that other stuff. Shit hits the fan in a big way. One of the things I did want to touch on, though, was the ending. So the ending is very ambiguous, and there's a lot that the interpretation kind of depends on and varies, rather. So for me, seeing Jack's face in an old picture from, the Overlook Hotel from 1921, it definitely kind of struck a chord with me. I'm like, oh, what's that mean? Some people speculate that, oh, no, he was really Grady all along, or there's some type of reincarnating thing going on. I personally take it as, again, the Overlook Hotel took his soul, so obviously they stuck his face in a picture, even though he really wasn't there. So, like I said, this film is fantastic, and it is masterfully crafted on all different levels. Not to sound pretentious, but I really do feel like it is. For someone like me who hadn't seen it and watched it for the first time, definitely enjoyed it for sure. And it was really kind of a surprise to find out that Stephen King really didn't like this adaptation, from what I heard. Not to mention the fact that when this film came out, despite it making some money at the box office, people were highly critical of this, not just of Shelley Duvall's performance, but of the film as a whole, saying that it wasn't that scary, that it really didn't get horror, or that it really wasn't that good of a film. So yeah, guys, I really enjoyed this film. I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going and checking it out. It is a great film, and I think, again, performances, visuals, the aesthetics of the film, the music, everything culminates to be a classic horror film. And it cannot be stated enough that Stanley Kubrick, again, shows his muscles here, flexes them, as it were. And I think that this is a really strong film, and it's definitely one you should be watching. Maybe not on Christmas, but it just so happened that it takes place in the winter, and I actually saw it recently. So, you know, it's not a Christmas movie, but it's fun to think that this could be taking place during Christmas time in some type of reality. Anyway, guys, that's all the time that I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you stuck to the end, like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And guys, as always, I'm Jay, so until next time, take care, and bye.